All right, guys, this one's all about legacies. Personally, I've done this before, but about how the show made no sense or anything. The problem with this show is that it tried to be something it was not. It didn't focus on the two other shows. It was kind of like that Superman and Lois concept where it had a very disconnect to the Arrowverse type thing, and this was the same way with this show. The only time the show got good was probably season 4, where we got Rebecca Michelson, we got Freya a couple of times. We started getting the Michelsons back into the story, but I was sick and tired of Mystic Falls. I wanted more New Orleans. That's why I wish that we had a season 6 and 7 of the originals and just passing the torch over to Hope and having those two um, plot points be the main focus of those two seasons instead of legacies, which is unite all the fashions together, unite the werewolves, vampires, witches, and humans together in New Orleans as being the tribrid, and that's why everyone was afraid of Hope. And the second one, where the plot is that she could bring death to all witches, and that was another thing that I really liked that I wish had happened. The show, now, granted, I will say one thing. Yes, it is proven that Klaus is the most powerful being at the time other than Esther or Michael or anyone else. So what they had to do was change the outcome of the concept in the originals to make it make it make sense and have someone on his power scaling. So that's why at the end of season 1, with the witches trying to kill Hope the first time with their power, we get another powerful witch, which is Esther, at the start of season 2 to Dahlia and everything. And by season 3, we get a new species of vampire, an upgraded original, just like an enchanted vampire, and so forth and so on. So, and then the Hollow comes into play, and so forth and so on, mostly the witches just being on his power level. The point is that I understand where people were a little pissed off, because I liked Aurora with her being 1,000 years old and everything. But again, Legacies was a bad show. The only time that it was slightly good was season 4. They waited way too long for 3 other seasons. Their target audience was wrong. They were trying to target the younger audience of not the TV 14 and up audience of the older, more edgy people that grew up with like between 14 to like 18-year-olds and into their early 20 concept with like all these other shows like One Tree Hill, Friday Night Lights and stuff, and Arrowverse, where it was like a little violent. They tried targeting the younger audience where it was more of a child show, where there was not a lot of blood and gore in this type of show, and that's where it didn't make sense. Now, I understand that they had to give someone to Hope to make her as strong as her, because, you know, she's the most powerful being in the world. Now what do? We got to get gods. Like, you can say thank you to Julie Plec for the most part for writing the stories of the Vampire Diaries and the originals, changing it by making all the Michelsons related to one another and making all the originals related. And then also not making Elena an actual angel and talking about all this god stuff. Now, obviously there are gods in the books, but the whole entire problem with Legacies is that it was such a disconnect show. I only watched it for Hope. I didn't even care about anyone else's legacy because, let's face it, none of their legacies mattered but the Michelsons. And I just wanted to see a different concept there, and it was trying to be something it wasn't. It wasn't trying to be originals or Vampire Diaries. In originals, obviously, a lot of people say it's more violent, it's more killy, and it's a better show ultimately over Vampire Diaries, and I can totally agree where people are coming from. But the problem with it is I just don't understand why they went that route with Legacies and why Legacies sucked as a show, and they decided to not try to continue going a different route and stuff where the witches and vampires and werewolves are still at each other's throats. There's a new villain. It's either Dahlia or Michael comes back, which would be kind of cool to see Hope's interaction with them, and so forth and so on. And I really wanted to see these other characters. Like, Landon being a phoenix was kind of stupid and stuff. I didn't even think that Landon should have even been in the show, to tell you the truth. It was weird to even have him in the show. You know, we get him introduced at the end of season 5 where he just dances with Hope, and Klaus is talking about dancing with a townie and stuff. And, you know, that's just the end of the show right there. And I really didn't need Landon to be in the show and stuff. And it was kind of just stupid, like, him being weak at times and not actually showing his strength. Maybe he's a hybrid, maybe he's a vampire. I don't know. It probably would have been better if he was a vampire, but a lot of people say that Hope would not trust him because, of the Roman incident and stuff. But I don't know, guys. What do you think? Do you think that Legacies was a really bad show? Or do you think that you could write it better? How do you think you would rewrite Legacies as a person? What would you change to make the outcome better? Would you change it where there has to be a new witch or vampire or villain? How would you make Legacies a better show? Or would you just not, like, if you were a fan of the show and stuff, but you were more a fan of Vampire Diaries and the originals, would you not make the show a thing and have it more focused on Hope Michelson and have just originals season 6 and 7 where it was more focused in New Orleans with her and stuff being there? Because let's face it, why the hell was she at the school after 2 years? I mean, she was a junior at that point. I didn't need her to be at the school anymore. But those are my thoughts, guys. Let me know your thoughts. I think it was a stupid show. I think Legacies ultimately sucked, in my opinion. I think it was just a bad show.